there's gigantic cuts coming our way because of what Walker is doing with the state budget. I'd like to hear how both of you would handle those cuts, where you would, I mean, I think we're going to have to do some cutting in the city budget. I'd like to know where you see those cuts coming from.
Two things that we need to do immediately. First of all, we need to get to work on fighting the governor's budget. We shouldn't just assume that since the governor has introduced his budget, it's going to pass in its current form. Sooner or later, legislative bodies start to figure out that they're co-equal branches of government, regardless of the fact that they happen to all belong to the same party. I've noticed that with some enthusiasm in dealing with Madison City Council. And so it's a good thing. It's a check and balance. It's the way our system works. And so we need to work with our other municipalities around the state and partners such as the school district and MATC and UW and Dane County to fight this budget and see what we can do to get improvements in it. Secondly, we need to get to work right away on looking at the 2012 budget. So I've asked our managers to look at things in their 2011 budget that might be cut back so that we can prepare for this. And I've asked the comptroller and city attorney to look at a range of other revenue options that we might look at for the 2012 budget. And when we get to that 2012 budgeting process, this is going to be the most inclusive budgeting process we have ever had. Neighborhood associations, small businesses, large businesses, unionized employees, non-represented employees, everybody is going to be engaged in this budget, and it's going to be an absolutely iterative process. Transparent, people will get the information exactly when we get it, we'll hear back, and through that process, through the most inclusive process we've ever had, we will put together the 2012 budget. And our goals are to maintain the high quality of life we have here in the city of Madison while continuing a very strong fiscal management policy.
We have a great city here. We know that, we live here, that's why we choose to be in Madison, Wisconsin. Before we can do any of the special things, we have to make sure that our city government is built on a strong fiscal platform. And that is essential to do any of the other wonderful things that we may have on our agenda. Before Governor Walker presented his budget repair bill and his state budget, I'd already made some suggestions on things that could be done. Now, I have served in the mayor's office, and I can tell you that it's my opinion that the workload has not significantly changed, at least not with the kinds of people I had working there. First, we get rid of the communications person. The mayor does not need a communications person. Secondly, we get rid of the budget audit person in the mayor's office. Either the comptroller is doing their job in that office or they're not. If they're not, there's something wrong and deal with it. Then what we do is we do bring back the position of legislative analyst and lobbyist, which also will save us $30,000 in a contracted job. That means net savings right there of $150,000. It's not a lot, but I think it's an excellent place to start. That legislative analyst lobbyist does a number of things. That person's critical in terms of intergovernmental relations, not just working with the state and with the county, but also with neighboring communities. That person is constantly doing the analysis on legislation for us and keeping not just the mayor, but the common council and the community informed as to the nature of what's going on in state government. That's critical for the long term for our community. And if it's a good person, and it should be, and there's plenty of people up at the Capitol who've demonstrated that, it doesn't matter whether they're working with Republicans or Democrats. Second thing we do is we start looking at all of the contracts that we're letting, particularly the ones without bids. That I find to be a very disturbing trend and is not a sound fiscal policy. The next thing that we do is we examine all of the items that have been placed into the capital budget which should be brought back into the operating budget. And our objective here is to deal with the rising debt service. We've got a very difficult time facing us now because we are in jeopardy of losing our AAA bond rating. The question is not how much debt service do we have today, but what are the projections for the next several years, and the projections are taking us to record levels.
Well, I have to disagree with Paul about many of these things. First of all, the three positions he's targeted are exactly the three positions I think we need in a budget crisis. The first one is the fiscal efficiency auditor. It's a program I created a few years ago, and what it does is a function that's unique. The comptroller can't do it, hasn't been able to do it, doesn't have the firepower to do it. And that's to actually drill down and look at efficiencies in city government. When we had a funding crisis at City Channel, for example, thanks to the loss of the PEG fees, the fiscal efficiency auditor went in, did an audit of the staff, and found that we could cut a couple of positions and still provide the same service that we were providing. The legislative analyst issue, we can do the legislative analysis actually with city staff, the comptroller and others. What we need is a face at the Capitol, and by going with the contract, we have the ability to hire someone who has the contacts you need in this particular situation. So, for example, when the Republicans took over, we hired a contract lobbyist with those Republican connections. He does not particularly think I am his favorite client right now.